Welcome, and thank you for joining me for the Maranatha podcast. My name is Christopher L. Scott. I serve as the senior pastor at Lakeview Missionary Church, and I'm the author of the book Walking Straight When Life Goes Sideways. Each week, I create this audio podcast as a way to educate and encourage you from a different passage of Scripture. Most podcasts are less than 10 minutes and are usually published on Wednesday mornings. Thanks again for joining me. The title of this week's podcast is When We Love God, God Works for Our Good, based on Romans chapter 8, verse 28. A guy I know went to the birthing classes with his wife when they were pregnant with their first child. He learned about the process of delivering a baby and how to help his wife during her labor contractions. Months later, when his wife's contractions began, he knew what was going on in her body based on the science of what he was taught in that class. However, when she began her contractions, it became very clear that she knew what contractions were on a deeper level than he would ever know. My friend, see, he knew intellectually what contractions were. His wife knew what they were from experience. Likewise, often we know in our heads that God will work out our circumstances for good, but often we don't have the experience in our hearts. Paul told the believers in the city of Rome in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, I'm reading from the New Living Translation, he wrote, "And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them." One of my favorite Bible teachers, J. Vernon McGee, writes about this verse. He says, "We come now to the purpose of God. If Romans is the greatest book of the Bible," he says, "and chapter 8 is the high watermark," he says, "then verse 28 is the pinnacle," according to Dr. McGee. How often is this verse quoted from memory, yet not experienced? Like my friend's limited understanding of his wife's contractions, sometimes we know that God works out things for our good, but we don't really feel it, especially when going through difficult times. We also need to remember that this is happening now. Paul writes, God causes everything to work together. And that phrase, God causes everything to work together, is a present active verb in Greek. See, Paul originally wrote in what's known as Koine Greek. This is something that God is actively doing. It's not something he does when he feels like it, when he's in a good mood, or when we've been loyal to him. God continually causes everything to work together for good for us. Another truth we need to remember is that God has a plan and a, quote, purpose, unquote, for us. Because according to Ephesians 1:11, because we are united with Christ, we have received an inheritance from God. For he chose us in advance, and he makes everything work out according to his plan. See, God has a plan even if we might not always understand it, even if we can't see him working out circumstances. He's using them for good. Warren Wiersbe has said, "We don't always discern God's plan, nor do we always understand his plan, but knowing that the Lord is in command puts peace and joy in our hearts." And that joy should be knowing in our hearts that God works our circumstances for good. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Maranatha podcast. My name's Christopher Scott, and I hope you can join me for another episode soon.